Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. This is my saying, and forever will be. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we choose to rejoice and be glad in it. Well, I am
Amen.
Portia Wheatley. I am the founder and the president of a nonprofit organization acknowledged as Trophy of Life Incorporated, where we have the great privilege and the honor to render hope, encouragement, and inspiration all around the whole wide world. And we're grateful to God that He has allowed us to do that. This is our 130th consecutive days of
Yeah.
rendering that hope,
Mhm.
encouragement, and inspiration. Believe me, it's all God, and we're just happy about it. So I want to bring in my co-host on today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Takara Swan, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today, we have a very, very, very special guest. But before I introduce my guest, I just want to remind our viewers to please go to our YouTube page later on and to like, share, and subscribe so that you can help us bring hope, encouragement, and inspiration to the entire world. We cannot do it without you. So go ahead and join our team by subscribing to our YouTube channel. But back to our guest for today. Okay, we have my dear friend, Tay Tay, as I call him, but Tavon. Tavon. I've known Tavon for quite some time now. And I can say I have watched him grow into the wonderful man that he is today. He has a heart of gold. He's always so loving and generous and very genuine, very down to earth. You might be very surprised about what comes out of his mouth, but he's so wonderful and he's hilarious. So if you are even in our area and you can get the chance to know him, I would say, just walk up, introduce yourself. He's a really great guy, but he is also such a risk taker. He's also so brave, and he has embarked on a new journey in his life, and I cannot wait for him to share that with all of us today. So Tavon, you have the floor.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Pastor Portia and Takira, for the opportunity to kind of speak to your audience today. This is a great platform, and I've seen some of the other 365 project presentations, and you guys are up to some greatness. So I certainly appreciate just giving some room for somebody like myself to share a little bit about what I'm doing and how God is just with us and moving with us during such an interesting time. So yeah, as it was said that over the past year, after much prayer and some deliberation, given some other responsibilities in my life, I decided to kind of jump into the work of being a foster parent. And that has been pretty interesting, exciting, challenging. I can name a lot of different things that it has been for me. But it has certainly been wonderful, and it has been enriching, and it has been something that has grown me in great ways. So I decided I wanted to give a little bit about some background for me and help me with my time, because I don't want to go over in time. So a little bit about background, because as we want to encourage people, we all kind of have like a story, right? And we have places that we've been. We have places in our rear view mirror that sometimes try to present itself in our present, so just a background to kind of what led me to foster care. So where did it begin for me? Let me tell you, I lost my dad to HIV/AIDS about 10 years, about 10 days after my 16th birthday. In the wake of my father's death, I discovered that he was a foster child, and my late grandparents had later adopted him. The next several years following my dad's death was a pretty interesting time for me, even through my early adulthood, where it was just a really obscure time, which was marred by broken trust, confidence, intense insecurity, emasculation, and identity crisis for me in my life. Right. Today, in looking back, I realized that my father represented a tremendous place of safety in my life, because my dad was just a unique individual, and he was very nurturing, though a man. And so in the midst of all of that, obscurity, I found at that time, I was again about 16 years old, I found a very natural love for God. And I found comfort in hearing like the word of God. And like being in church service, it was just really comforting for me. It gave me peace in the middle of all of the chaos, which was my life. And I was blessed to find a church home in Kingdom Worship Center. And the Lord allowed me to grow and be healed and be delivered and make wonderful relationships with great men in God, great men who had great fathers, and so on and so forth. So as I moved on throughout my journey, the Lord brings me many years later to work for the Department of Social Services. And this was like a really interesting opportunity that I was given. And I had the opportunity to kind of stand on the front line and see, the impact of the vicissitudes of life. That's what Timothy Braithwaite would say, the vicissitudes of life in the community, on individuals that had their own stories, their own backgrounds, and how it impacted families. And so, I've been doing that work with social services for 10 years now, today. And so as we all encountered the pandemic on last year, as well as a lot of social justice services and patriotism among people of color and minorities. As they protest, I found myself in a lot of prayer about, what really should I do and what was God saying, and how to impact change and how to do it in a positive way, and how to, make a difference, but still be on track with what God is saying in my life. And I had this full circle moment. It was a total full circle moment in my life where foster care rose in my spirit. And I began to look, and I came across many articles that talked about the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic on children in care. There were group homes that were in lockdown mode. The number of individuals seeking to be foster parents and to provide assistance had severely decreased. And there was just a number of ways in which there was a change and there was an impact on the industry of foster care. And so I began to move in that direction after much prayer, and after I felt released. And with my nervousness and butterflies, it was more like elephants, but in my stomach and all, I kind of moved in that direction. And so I just want to kind of encourage and through sharing a little bit about my process and, some of my background, the first things I really want to kind of encourage individuals listening, individuals who are tuning in, I want to encourage any who may have even a slight interest in foster care to look into it, to explore it, to talk to foster care organizations, talk to the Department of Social Services. It doesn't have to be governmental, it could be private. So look at the different opportunities that are out there in which you're able to assist and help. Because there is a great opportunity where you can make a great impact in somebody's life. And I promise you, you'll be so surprised And so, this knocked off your feet about how you will find your own life being enriched and blessed just through the opportunity to serve. So that's one thing. I gotta say that's my public service announcement. If you're interested, look into it. If you have a little inclination about it, look into it. It does not hurt just to find out, to sit through a class, to hear stories, to hear what people say. And it's not all going to be peachy, because ultimately, when you're talking about foster care, you're basically talking about something that has happened, something where the government and the courts has determined that there need to be some type of intervention. And before there's placement in a stranger's home, they always go to family. So we're talking about something that's really going on. So for people who really have a heart for that, I really encourage you to do that. Next, I also want to say, for some people, it may not be foster care. For some people, there may be an interest, but you may not necessarily see yourself on the front line like that. There's something called CASA workers. And these are court-appointed special advocates. You might want to look into that, find out a little bit about that. These are totally objective parties who sometimes, who basically have partnered with the system, that being social services as well as the courts, where you have a total objective party to come in just to be a watchful eye and advocate on the part of the child in the middle of the system, in the middle of dealing with social services, in the middle of dealing with foster parents, in the middle of dealing with all of the separate entities that they come in contact with, things regarding their medical situations and their medical health and well-being and so on and so forth. So there are other opportunities that may not be as direct as being a foster parent and inviting someone into your home, so on and so forth. So please be encouraged in that. Think about that, pray about that. And I promise I'm sharing this for a very particular reason. So I'm sure that there's someone out there who just had a light bulb moment regarding this. Secondly, I want to point out, I want to encourage specifically men. I want to encourage specifically men who may not feel, who may have an interest, who may have a desire, may have a want for children around them in their presence. If I was to be honest, one of the things that became my struggle, and I shared a little bit about, my background, I did that strategically because there was things that I had to work my way through in a different way in becoming a foster parent, a different way. I'm a guy, I don't have a maternal bone in my body, and it's like, they need a mother, but you would be surprised to know the number of male children that are in the system, male children of color in the system, racked with teens. And I've worked with social service enough to know that there is a serious cycle. I'm convinced at the age of 21, where most children age out, I'm telling you, in my life, at 21, I wasn't ready. I needed somebody. I wasn't ready. So how ready, given all of the supports in the world, how ready can a 21-year-old be? And so connecting and establishing and finding new roots can be a great and mighty thing in somebody's life. So I want to encourage the brothers who may have had that inclination themselves to look into it, to see it, because all of what you may perceive to be as a shortfall could be something that's literally needed in the life of a young guy, regardless of how inadequate you may feel like you are, right? Regardless of how inadequate you may feel like you are, someone is more than blessed to have you to kind of support them. And how you respond to them is totally different by how our mothers, happy belated Mother's Day, but how our mothers would respond to young men. And so they need the hand of a guy. So please, men, be encouraged, think about it, pray about it, because oftentimes as guys, we don't talk and we don't share a lot of things. And I got to tell you, it was about 3-4 years ago, I began to deal with baby fever. And it was weird to me because, you know, I didn't know that many had baby fever. I had to figure out what this was and all of that. And so I don't want us to underestimate that there are men who, single men even, who have that desire to have youth in their lives, that fulfillment, and that would just be a great opportunity. And then lastly, what I want to point out is I kind of came on and I'm talking about foster care, but I want to encourage all the listeners that for me, it was foster care. But the thing that God has for you, or the thing that you may be wrestling, struggling, contemplating on walking out in your life, it may not be foster care. And I just want to encourage you to trust your godly instinct. Because as I said, our past, things that we've been through, you know, we will mull over them and we will try to invalidate what God is speaking to us. We will count ourselves out before we even start the race. And God works, you know, in a multiplicitous, purposeful way. You know, I was thinking about how the scripture says that he's the many-breasted one, you know, and so be encouraged. There are things that I am convinced that that will rise out of the people of God, and that God has like called forth in us during this time of pandemic. I think this was such a critical time. Like God knows exactly what he's doing, and he's not confused. He's not dismayed. He's not shaken. He's resting. It's well with him. And so as we have had things rise within us, I can't wait. Sometimes I think to myself, I can't wait to see the people of God, or to encounter the people of God again after this time away, because I'm totally convinced that, you know, from one perspective, we may have worried about the state of the church, and worried about whether or not people will return, and worried about a number of different things. But I'm convinced that there has been a number of people who God has been dealing with in private and in secret. And when they come out, there will be such a reemergence, and we will wonder who it is that this person is, and we will see them in ways that we've not seen them before, given the transformation they've encountered. I am convinced of it. I'm convinced of it. And so trust God, trust your godly instinct. And I had to say godly instinct because we don't want to just trust all about, don't trust all of your instincts. You know, we're in a time where everybody say, well, I feel like this, I feel like that. And sometimes I feel like saying, well, go figure out, get a no to what you feel, because those feelings can come from any type of way. And so, so those things that promotes the things of God, promotes uplifting people, encouraging people, restoring people, healing people, you know, edifying people. Those are those godly instincts, those things that speaks to God, speak to the fruit of his spirit, speak to the nature and the attributes of who he is. Those are the things. Trust them, move towards them, and watch God be exactly and totally who he is. And so maybe in that way, sometimes I get a little radical. But I'm totally appreciative, and And I'm thankful for everything that the Lord has done. And watch, here's what I want to say, and watch the watch how people come and they testify to what you do, and they speak well, and people are astonished. The very things that I thought that were a disadvantage for me became an advantage for me. I said, well, I don't know nothing about kids. Or I said, I don't have other kids around. And I never forget, one of my first placements was a 2-year-old child. And I was just like, I have no idea, what I'm doing. But it was such a blessed time. You have children who have suffered traumatic injuries, behavioral diagnoses, given some things that they have experienced. And again, outside of foster care, trust, watch, because when we begin to engage in the things that God has put before us, people will come and they will bless us. They will have great and wonderful words to say. They'll talk about how their lives were impacted. It was just a few seconds ago, I was receiving a text message from a social worker from who has a child who I provide some respite service for. And the family was just so excited, about, how the kid was after the time we were together. So you never know. And sometimes I'm stunned because I'm saying, why did they leave this kid with me like this? I don't always understand it, but it's such a great time, and it's a great opportunity, and I have been blessed. And so hopefully with everything that I've shared today, you feel hope, you feel encouragement, you feel inspired to walk out the thing that God has given you, the thing that God has been speaking to you about, the thing that you have been wrestling with. Be settled, trust your godly instincts, and move forward. Thank you guys so much.
Tavon,
Yeah.
this was so powerful. If we were in church, I would say time for the offering. But I tell you what, this was really great. And I would imagine your toes are twitching in the sense of some of what you said was like, it was at the pinnacle of the message. It was really inspiring, encouraging, very much encouraging to our audience as well as hopeful. One question for you. In your what you've encountered with your children that you've already are foster parent to, did you find yourself trying to, or just doing it, giving that child what you did not have as a child?
Yes, I would say yes. Sometimes I did, but oftentimes, believe it or not, I found myself given what I did have as a child through my father, who I lost early. And he made such an impact on my life, yet it was such a short time. And kids are all about them. There's so many things that I did not know about my father. But he was such a nurturing man. I mean, he really was a place of protection and safety for me. I had no care when I was with my father or around my father. And a lot of people don't know, my father had a severe drug addiction. And I tell people to this day, he was the greatest man I know. He was the greatest man I know. He had a severe drug addiction that ultimately impacted his life up until him succumbing to, HIV/AIDS. And it was something devastating. I saw him on my birthday, and within 10 days, he was gone. He was gone, and I was totally stunned. He was walking, talking, doing this one day, and days later, he was gone. And it had a major impact on me because as a male child, I was a soft child. or what people would say, oh, he's soft. He's soft. But to my dad, you know, I was his son. And he did not, and so I found a lot of comfort with him. And so as I work with children with behavioral diagnoses, and a lot of them, there are words or labels that have been associated with them. And there is a place of refuge that they are looking for. And when you put, oh my God. So yeah, that I provide more what my father gave than what I was missing. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And at the age of 16, that's a very serious age in the point of trying to be a man or growing into your manhood. I worked in the school system for almost 20 years. And I only dealt with students that got sent out of class, expelled, and, expulsions and things like that, referrals.
Yeah.
But when those young men found a teacher or an adult guidance counselor or anyone, particularly at that age, when they found someone that really they knew cared for them, it was almost like glue, because that was an age that they needed some guidance. They needed structure. And all the time, once those students are in school, that's pretty much all of the structure and guidance and love and caring they get, because once they go home, it's a different story. I'm not saying that across the board, but for many of our children, it's a different story. So whatever our audience has to give to young men, young women, that would help them grow into who God has made them to be, it's definitely necessary for you to put aside me, myself, and I, and reach out to those children. It definitely makes a difference. Takira, your friend and my friend did a wonderful job today. And I so appreciate that. I appreciate the transparency.
I told you, he's very down to earth and he'll just tell it like it is. Tavon.
Yes, ma'am.
I so appreciate you so much, but you know this already.
I love you guys. Thank you. Thank you guys for the opportunity. This has been a great blessing. And if there are any who are interested, I know that there was a post about today's Project 365 presentation, and I received some text message already of people saying, hey, I heard you did this. I want to talk a little bit more about this. So if anybody have any questions or if I can help in any way, please share my information to those who reach out to you. I'll be more than happy to kind of offer whatever I can in the form of help and assistance.
Now, I just want to ask a question, if you could talk a little bit more. So one, when you told our little circle of friends, you were thinking about becoming a foster parent a while ago, I don't know what, well, I can't speak for them, but I was like, oh, that would be good for him. But I'm like, really? Like, you want to be a foster parent? I'm like, do you know what you're getting into? I'm like, Tavon, kids are a lot of work. And I know you'd be good at it because you have a big heart. And I'm like, but I don't know. And then speaking to how you said you just gotta, trust God and know, what he wants you to do, because he put that out there, and no matter what we said, it was like a couple months later, he was like, okay, guys, so I started the process. We were like, oh, okay, so you decided to go ahead and do it. And then a little while after that, he was like, okay, guys, so I got my first placement this weekend. And we're like, wait, what? Like, what happened? Like, you went through the whole process and you were just very adamant about, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm very proud of you. But one thing I did not know when it comes to foster care is about respite care. So can you just briefly talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I definitely will. So respite care is basically a interim care that is provided to foster care parents who have permanent placements. And when I say permanent, I use that term loosely because the children are only being fostered, but they have been identified to a home who an identified home and family who have basically the temporary permanent care. of that child. But on a monthly basis, parents are entitled to receive like a break, because sometimes they may need to let their hair down or, relax a little bit. Or during the COVID pandemic, children are not allowed to be taken out of state. And so there have been special provisions placed. And so I have been providing respite care, which have become my baby. I love doing respite care. And that is supporting permanent foster parents. So oftentimes I have kids during the weekend, or if a family goes away on vacation, or they're taking their daughter off to college, which is out of state. And so I'm able to support those who are primary support within the system. And so thank you for asking that, because some people could help in that way. And I'm allowed to, I've met many kids and of all ages, 2 and 3 and 4 and 16 and 17. I normally stay in those two groups. They're really young, or they're 16, 17. And so, yes, that's respite care. And I absolutely love it. I love respite care.
And I'm so glad that that you decided to do that. That was something really big that I learned about. And I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that. And you're just such an inspiration and an encouraging person to something like this. So like he said, if you are interested in foster care, respite care, just helping, someone, a child in need, I would encourage you to look into this. Reach out to Tavon if you have any questions. There are so many children that just need a positive influence in their life. And I really love like the foster care commercials, like they kind of cheer up a little bit secretly that come on TV. But there's one commercial that was saying, you don't have to be perfect, to be a foster parent. You think, oh, I gotta make sure I'm this and that, and I gotta have everything right. No, kids just want someone that will give them safety and love. And that's all they're asking for. And that's free. Like, just give and love straight from your heart, and you'll be like the perfect foster parent. So don't think you have to, be a different person. No, a kid will love you for you and accept the love that you have for them. So I just want to encourage everyone about that. And I always say, I've said it since I was a young girl, I don't know if I could be a foster parent because I get so attached to children. I don't want to give them back. But and some of the kids you have had placed with you, especially the older ones, they are so adorable. And I'm like, no, like you only had them for a week. Oh, they're gone already. But you can already tell. Well, I can tell that they have been positively impacted by them staying with you, even for that 1 week. And that's why I just try to stay away, because I'll get attached. Like, well, where is he? What's going on? How's he doing in school? What happened with this? So, but everyone.
I was going to say it's an absolute blessing. One of the things in my mind sometimes I think about, and this could be me being a little bit mushy and soft, and that is that, thinking about 20 years down the road, it's like somebody coming back knocking on your door.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing or hearing where they end up or how they do so. So that I don't know why that's so exciting to me, but that's really exciting to me. But yeah, it's great. It's great. Check it out. Look into it, and have your socks blown off, because it's great.
Well, I just want to thank you for coming on our broadcast and sharing such an intimate, journey that you're going through with us and with the world, and being such an inspiration and encouraging others. Before we go, I just want to remind you again to go to our YouTube page and subscribe, and please share this video to everyone. You did such a great job, Tavon, but this has so many good nuggets and pertinent information in here. And even if you are not, you're like, foster care is not for me, I'm sure someone who's interested in it and would love to be a foster parent, or even help in any kind of way with the foster care system. So before we go, remember to come back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We have another great guest for you, and enjoy your day, guys. We will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m.
Bye.